Welcome to TechNation. In this video, we'll be discussing the latest advancements and implications of facial recognition technology. From its use in security systems to its integration in our daily lives, we'll explore the pros and cons of this rapidly growing field. So sit back, relax, and let's dive into the world of facial recognition. Facial recognition, the software that maps, analyzes, and then confirms the identity of a face in a photograph or video, is one of the most powerful surveillance tools ever made. While many people interact with facial recognition merely as a way to unlock their phones or sort their photos, how companies and governments use it will have a far greater impact on people's lives. When it's a device you own or software you use, you may be able to opt out of or turn off facial recognition, but the ubiquity of cameras makes the technology increasingly difficult to avoid in public. Concerns about that ubiquity, amplified by evidence of racial profiling and protester identification, have caused major companies, including Amazon, IBM, and Microsoft, to put a moratorium on selling their software to law enforcement. How facial recognition software works. Most people have seen facial recognition used in movies for decades, but it's rarely depicted correctly. Every facial recognition system works differently, often built on proprietary algorithms, but you can sort out the process into three basic types of technology. Detection is the process of finding a face in an image. If you've ever used a camera that detects a face and draws a box around it to autofocus, you've seen this technology in action. On its own, it isn't nefarious. Face detection only focuses on finding a face, not the identity behind it. Analysis is the step that maps faces, often by measuring the distance between the eyes, the shape of the chin, the distance between the nose and mouth, and then converts that into a string of numbers or points, often called a faceprint. Goofy Instagram or Snapchat filters use similar technology. Although analysis can suffer from glitches, particularly involving misidentification, that's generally problematic only when the faceprint is added to a recognition database. Recognition is the attempt to confirm the identity of a person in a photo. This process is used for verification, such as in a security feature on a newer smartphone, or for identification, which attempts to answer the question who is in this picture. And this is where the technology steps into the creepier side of things. The detection phase of facial recognition starts with an algorithm that learns what a face is. Usually the creator of the algorithm does this by training it with photos of faces. If you cram in enough pictures to train the algorithm, over time it learns the difference between, say, a wall outlet and a face. Add another algorithm for analysis, and yet another for recognition, and you've got a recognition system. The diversity of photos fed into the system has a profound effect on its accuracy during the analysis and recognition steps. For example, if the sample sets mostly include white men, as was the case in the training of early facial recognition systems, the programs will struggle to accurately identify BIPOC faces and women. The best facial recognition software has started to correct for this in recent years, but white males are still falsely matched less frequently, PDF, than other groups. Some software misidentifies some Black and Asian people 100 times more often than white men. Mutalain Khan, fellow of the Digital Civil Society Lab at Stanford and member of the TikTok Content Advisory Council, notes that even if the systems are operating perfectly, issues with gender identification remain. Labels are typically binary, male, female. There is no way for that type of system to look at non-binary or even somebody who has transitioned. A brief history of facial recognition. The roots of facial recognition formed in the 1960s, when Woodrow Wilson Bledsoe developed a system of measurements to classify photos of faces. A new, unknown face could then be compared against the data points of previously entered photos. The system wasn't fast by modern standards, but it proved that the idea had merit. By 1967, interest from law enforcement was already creeping in, and such organizations appear to have funded Bledsoe's continued research, which was never published, into a matching program. Facial recognition's first dramatic shift to the public stage in the US also brought on its first big controversy. In 2001, law enforcement officials used facial recognition on crowds at Super Bowl. Skip ahead a few years to 2008, when Illinois' Biometric Information Privacy Act went into effect, becoming the first law of its kind in the US to regulate the unlawful collection and storage of biometric information, including photos of faces. Jennifer Lynch, Surveillance Litigation Director at the Electronic Frontier Foundation, describes BIPA as the model for commercial regulation. In 2014, Facebook publicly revealed its deep face photo tagging software. The same year facial recognition played a key part in convicting a thief in Chicago, and the same year Edward Snowden released documents showing the extent to which the US government was collecting images to build a database. In 2017, President Donald Trump issued an executive order expediting facial recognition usage at U.S. borders, and private airlines have since made their own efforts to incorporate the technology. In 2018, Taylor Swift's security team used facial recognition to identify stalkers, and China rapidly increased its usage. Facial recognition came to Madison Square Garden as a general security measure, and retailers in the U.S. experimented with the tech to track both legitimate shoppers and shoplifters. In 2019, a landlord in New York tried installing it to replace keys, and several schools attempted the same. Today, a handful of cities, San Francisco, Oakland, and Berkeley in California, plus Boston and Somerville in Massachusetts, have banned facial recognition usage by government entities. The country has also seen the first known case of a false positive leading to an arrest in the US. However, other, new players have entered the arena. Clearview AI made news in early 2020 when the New York Times revealed that the company regularly ran its recognition software against a database of photos scraped from sources across the internet, including social media, news sites, and employment sites, which Wirecutter, and many others, were able to confirm with testing, in a process that it used to identify suspects. The arguments for and against facial recognition. Proponents of facial recognition suggest that the software is useful because alongside identifying suspects, it can monitor known criminals and help identify child victims of abuse. In crowds, it could monitor for suspects at large events and increase security at airports or border crossings. The most long-running type of facial recognition software runs a photo through a government-controlled database, such as the FBI's database of over 400 million photos, which includes driver's licenses from some states, to identify a suspect. Local police departments use a variety of facial recognition software, often purchased from private companies. There's a long list of benefits facial recognition can offer outside of law enforcement, adding convenience or security to everyday things and experiences. Facial recognition is helpful for organizing photos, useful in securing devices like laptops and phones, and beneficial in assisting blind and low vision communities. It can be a more secure option for entry into places of business, fraud protection at ATMs, event registration, or logging into online accounts. Brenda Leong, Senior Counsel and Director of Artificial Intelligence and Ethics at Future of Privacy Forum, suggested in an interview that proponents point to facial recognition as a replacement for loyalty programs or gated access. You just walk through a set of cameras and all those things happen very seamlessly. Sports arenas, event venues, amusement parks, all those places either are using or would have ideas of ways to use it similarly. Opponents don't think these benefits are worth the privacy risks, nor do they trust the systems or the people running them. The first point of contention lies in the act of collection itself. It's very easy for law enforcement to collect photos but nearly impossible for the public to avoid having their images taken. Mug shots, for example, happen upon arrest but before conviction. Error rates in recognition are also problematic, both in a false positive sense, where an innocent person is falsely identified, and a false negative sense, where a guilty person isn't identified. Although policy changes, whether in the form of regulation or bans, offer the clearest way forward on a national scale, enacting such changes takes time. Meanwhile, there are smaller but not insignificant ways people interact with facial recognition on a daily basis that are worth thinking deeply about. What about facial recognition in Google Photos or Apple Photos? Photo organization was the first time many people saw facial recognition in action. Apple has made a big show of describing how its facial recognition data in photos runs on the device, PDF. This technology is more private than a cloud server, but it is also less accurate than cloud-based software. Face grouping in Google Photos can be very accurate, but Google's wide array of services and devices means the company tends to share data liberally across the services it provides. In 2016, Google was sued in Illinois for its use of facial recognition, but that suit was later dismissed. In 2020, a new class action suit alleges a similar offense. Although the ability to organize photos by faces using the facial recognition feature in a Photos app offers quantifiable benefits, there is a privacy trade-off to consider. You can't turn the corresponding feature off in Apple's Photos app, but if you don't actively go in and link a photo to a name, the recognition data never leaves your device. What about Facebook? Facebook likely has the largest facial data set ever assembled, and if Facebook has proven anything over the years, it's that people shouldn't trust the company to do the right thing with the data it collects. Facebook recently agreed to pay $550 million to settle a lawsuit in Illinois over its photo tagging system. What about unlocking a phone or computer? As the features work now, face unlock typically happens only on the device itself, and that data is never uploaded to a server or added to a database. What about facial recognition in home security cameras? The systems behind security cameras lack clear consent as they record and opt in people automatically, often in defiance of local privacy laws, an ethical problem many people neglect to consider. Right now, only a handful of home security cameras include facial recognition, including Wirecutter's Smart Doorbell Upgrade Pick, Google's Nest Hello. Face detection on Nest cameras is off by default, however. More worrisome to privacy advocates is the potential inclusion of facial recognition with Ring cameras, a system that shares data with police through its neighbor's app. Do you need to worry about those goofy face apps that pop up once a year or so? The most recent app to break through in this arena was FaceApp, which gained popularity by allowing people to age themselves. Can facial recognition identify you if you're wearing a mask? It's not likely right now, but maybe in the future. Companies are scrambling to solve this problem. Where society goes from here promises to be a mixture of policy and tweaks to people's personal habits, but the conversation concerning the technology likely isn't going anywhere for a long time. That's it for our video on facial recognition technology. We hope you found it informative and thought-provoking. If you enjoyed the video, please don't forget to like, share, and subscribe to our channel for more videos like this. Support helps us to continue creating high-quality content and also helps the YouTube algorithm to recommend our videos to more people. Thanks for watching, and we'll see you in the next video.